Okay, here we go. Let's try a video. A lot of you know that myself and Tristan, we moved from Las Vegas to Vero Beach, Florida. Wow, it's almost 10 months now. It's so incredible. Well, guess what? A few weeks ago, we went through our very first hurricane, and that was quite an experience. Now, the eye of the hurricane did not hit Vero Beach, but the outskirts of the hurricane hit Vero Beach, and we took video of it. We put it up on our other channel. Tristan and myself have a YouTube channel together. It's a fun channel. It's a funny channel. Traveling videos, food reviews, all kinds of vacations and concerts. So you can check that out if you want. I want you to know something. Jesus himself has been sending me to some of the most secret videos on the entire internet. Some of the most secret photos I have seen. These hurricanes, they're not natural. They're actually weapons. I learned about this approximately 13 or 14 years ago, and I'll share a little story with that in a few moments. Many of you already know that the hurricanes can be steered like a car, like a motorcycle. But for those of you who don't know, I know this is shocking. In 1962, that's 2 years before I was born, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was speaking at the Southwest Texas State University, and you can actually watch this video on the internet where he tells us that they are investigating technology, developing technology to control the weather to dominate the world. This is back in 1962. Let's go back even farther now. This is unbelievable. In 1947, think about that. 1947, Project Cirrus, CIRRUS, made their first attempt to control a hurricane. What they did back in 1947 is, now think about how long ago that is. That's almost 80 years ago, or let's do some better math, 75 years ago. They were dropping pounds and pounds, like 200 pounds of dry ice on the outside parts of the hurricane eye. It's called the eye wall. And what happened is GE, General Electric, who was running Project Cirrus, learned, and the U.S. government learned, that you could move the hurricanes. So this is what happened. On October 13th, 1947, 75 years ago. I'm using this tone of voice because it's going to be so important in a couple minutes from now. 75 years ago, General Electric, you know, the people who make our toasters, our microwaves, our ovens, you and I have been giving them billions and billions of dollars the last 75 years for our home accessories and our appliances and everything else. In October 13th, 1947, there was a hurricane out in the ocean. It was moving out towards the ocean. GE dropped 180 pounds of dry ice, and the hurricane immediately changed direction. And guess where it hit? It hit Savannah, Georgia. This was made public. This was in the newspapers. The citizens of Savannah, Georgia, and other parts of the world got infuriated with the U.S. government. They blamed the U.S. government in public. It was in 1947, in my opinion, when they started to cover up the technology that they could steer hurricanes. To continue, Irving Langmuir was an atmospheric researcher in charge of the whole I think he was in charge of the whole operation for General Electric, admitted their project was to weaponize the weather. He also admitted that Project Cirrus changed the direction of the hurricane. But of course, the U.S. government denied it for the next 12 years. Isn't that incredible? This is back in 1947. In 1965, Project Storm Fury targeted Hurricane Betsy. When they used their technology, the Hurricane Betsy immediately changed direction and it slammed into southern Florida. Our U.S. Congress, the congressmen and women, blamed the secret government for Project Storm Fury. Of course, the government denied it. Think about that. Our own governors were blaming the U.S. government. When have we ever seen that happen? In 1997, William Cohen, the Secretary of Defense, stated that we have enemies who can make earthquakes, volcanoes erupt, and use all weather as weapons by using electromagnetic waves. Now, the U.S. government has been using weather as a weapon for possibly over 75 years, but in 1997, other governments got some technology. So all of a sudden, William Cohen has to go public that our enemies have these weapons using electromagnetic waves. Listen to this. Gag orders were placed on all men and women who work on the weather service programs. They're not allowed to talk about any of this secret technology. Now, some of them have tried to hire lawyers to get out of the legal gag to reverse the order, but obviously it's still being covered up. Listen, men and women and all people here. When a hurricane hits a city, it's an attack. It is not natural. We have technology that can dissipate the hurricanes and make them weaker, which I'm about to explain to you. And we have technology to make them stronger. We also have technology to steer them. These are attacks. When the hurricanes, you might call them typhoons, keep hitting the Philippines, these are attacks against the government, against the Philippine military, against the citizens. Every single hurricane can be steered out into the ocean to where people will be safe. Think about how many hurricanes have attacked cities in the last 75 years. How many? Thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of them. It's unbelievable. They have been using hurricanes as a secret weapon to attack governments, militaries, and cities of the world for just under 100 years, 75 years. How does that make you feel? Now, of course, they are no longer seeding the clouds with dry ice. Are you kidding me? We have technology far beyond Star Wars and Star Trek now, so the seeding program stopped decades ago. The Air Force and DARPA have their own versions of HAARP. What HAARP does is HAARP injects energy into the ionosphere, to control it. So they're controlling the ionosphere by injecting energy into it, and their work and their experiments have been completed, according to their own spokespersons speaking in front of Congress on camera. Their projects, their experiments, their weapons have been completed. Now, one of the ways that they're steering the hurricanes right now is they're using what's called frequency transmission manipulation of the hurricane. What they do is they add conductive particles into the storm, mixing with the particles from the chemtrails. Then they use radio frequencies from multiple different locations here on Earth to steer the hurricanes. They can steer them as easy as you can steer a car. And one of the ways that we know this is these techniques have been patented. You could read about them on the internet under their patents. Now listen, this is going to shock you. We just went through our very first hurricane here in Florida. We live in Vero Beach. The hurricane was called Ian or Ion, whatever you want. Ian, I-A-N. Do you know where a couple of these electronically conductive climate frequency locations are located? They have one in Key West, Florida. There's another one in Melbourne, Florida. Oh, doesn't this evil just disgust you? All of the hurricanes hitting Florida, I was trying to think of where else might be, New Orleans, Florida, Texas. They're being steered with electronically conductive climate elements working from these secret buildings where you're probably going to be seeing radars coming out of them. The techniques have been patented. They have these locations, I'm assuming, up the East Coast, all around Florida, all around down south, all the way to Texas. I can only prove to you that Key West has one and Melbourne, Florida has one. And this is how they can steer the hurricanes, left or right, up or down, which would be north or south. This is how they can make them stronger. Have you ever been wondering why a hurricane is changing from category 2 to category 3? I was meditating on this during Hurricane Ian. Why is it gaining more energy? Why? Because they're feeding it with all types of devious, demonic technology to make the waves stronger, the wind stronger. Anyway, I'm just going to say goodbye. I mean, this is heartbreaking. Oh, I promised you the true story. About 12 or 13 years ago, the Lord Jesus led me to the most amazing photograph. I saw a photograph of a huge blue beam being shot from space into the eye of the hurricane. I am telling you, they are using space-age technology to steer these hurricanes. And obviously, Florida is under attack. Sometimes New Orleans and possibly even Texas is under attack. Sometimes the east coast of the USA and the Philippines. My wife is Filipino. The Philippines are under attack. What is this about? Please let me add some conjecture for a couple minutes. You see, when the Philippine government doesn't want to play ball with the Satanist, when Florida doesn't want to play ball, when another country, how about Malaysia, how about Taiwan, how about Hong Kong, doesn't want to follow the plan of the deep state Satanists, all they got to do is send a hurricane. That's all you got to do. Send a hurricane. The hurricanes can also be used to take down the economy of the Philippines, Malaysia, the United States, through Florida, the East Coast, Texas, Louisiana, etc., Mississippi, possibly other states too. So the hurricanes can be used to destroy our economy. One hurricane at a time, one at a time, one at a time, taking down the economy. But here is something else they're using the hurricane to do. This is going to boggle your mind. They're using the hurricanes to create fear. Why? There are types of demons who feed off of our fear. Let that sink in. They're trying to create fear. And possibly there's another 100 to 200 reasons why they're attacking cities all over the world with hurricanes. But there's a few of the big reasons. They're forcing governments to play ball with Satan. They're taking down the economies of different cities, states, and governments. And they're creating fear so the demons can feed and get energized. Spread the truth.